Welcome to the GSMC Fitness Podcast, the show that helps you sort through all of the trends, new and old, of the fitness world. We'll talk about yoga, running, Zumba, weightlifting, and everything in between. Whether you've got your fitness routine down to a science or you're just starting out and looking for direction, you'll find educational and entertaining information on the GSMC Fitness Podcast.
Hey guys, and welcome back to GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Cynthia. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I hope you all had an amazing Valentine's Day weekend, President's Day weekend. I know everybody is out and about doing the thing with their loved one or by themselves. You know, Valentine's Day, you don't need a boo. You can be by yourself and, reciprocate that love to yourself, okay? So I had a great time. I ate lots of food. I don't like chocolate though, so I didn't eat lots of chocolate, but I did eat lots of good food, and I had a great time with my man and with my family as well. So, I forgot. How did I forget? I hosted a booty camp this weekend. So I do these camps in the Sacramento area, and it's more like it's like a HIIT workout, because the only equipment I ask for everyone to bring is a booty band and a mat. And then this time I supplied dumbbells for everybody, just one dumbbell, not super heavy. And I take everybody through a circuit and get everybody sweating. So my booty camp style is definitely more high intensity, endurance training, very high reps. Again, just due to the space that I have and the equipment that I have as well. But I always love hosting these camps. They are always so fun for me. I always meet a couple new faces in these camps, and I just genuinely love teaching. I genuinely love just coaching and getting people to work out and creating these events in which I can bring people together and work out and just create an environment that's safe for everybody, where everyone has fun, lets loose, but we also get a killer workout. So I had such an amazing time this weekend. And if you're listening and you went to my camp, thank you so much. I had so much fun, and stay tuned for my future ones that I'll be hosting. And I just said I did a booty camp over the weekend. And if you can tell by the title of today's episode, I was trying to get a little clever with it. Baby got back. It's all about the booty today, glutes, your tush, your nalga, the pompis, whatever you want to call it. It's all about the bottom. And this is my area of expertise. This is what most ladies hit me up for. Top two. So first one's going to be fat loss, and then the other one's going to be about booty building, which again is my area of expertise. It is my favorite body part to target, overall legs, but specifically more glutes. I just really love glute training. I obviously love the aesthetic of glutes. And that's the whole craze right now. And the information that's going to be provided in today's episode is my experience with glute training, my experience training clients, and I'm going to be referring to a lot of Brett Contreras' work. He's known as the glute guy, the glute master. He's pretty much the inventor of like the hip thruster. But I just really love his work. I follow him on social media. I'm planning on getting his book because I just really love how eloquent he is in explaining booty building exercise and just like the method and science behind it. I take his word for it. He has a PhD, and I can't read all the certifications right now, but he is, I would trust him with my booty building life. Okay. So that's the man I really look up to, which is crazy because you think like, oh, glute building, booty building, it's mainly focused or geared towards women, but here is a guy, a middle-aged guy doing the thing and, you know, showing the world that exercises are not sexist. You feel me? Like, lower body is not just for ladies and upper body is not just for the men. Like, we all need to be working our lower and upper bodies to have a balanced physique. Like, it doesn't make sense if you're only working your lower body. You're going to have an extremely weak upper body. And then same thing, if you're not working your lower body and you're only sticking to your chest and your biceps, you're going to have a very weak posterior kinetic chain. So I just had to say that. And of course, like, just the whole craze of like having large glutes and the aesthetic of glutes has become widely popular over the last decade with the help of celebrities and fitness influencers. Like, of course, the Kardashians, Nicki Minaj, Megan Thee Stallion, Katya Elise Henry, and many more. And I'm like still laughing that I just did that Megan Thee Stallion tongue. If you guys are a fan of Megan Thee Stallion, then you're going to laugh at what I just did. But if you're not, you're probably like hella confused right now as to what I'm even referring to. So anyways, back to what I was saying. You can scroll through Instagram right now and I'm sure you'll find more than one booty pic or multiple booty workouts posted on your feed somewhere. Myself included, I'm totally guilty of this. I don't care. I haven't really been posting lately on my social media, my workouts, because I've been kind of on a time crunch, but I do like recording my workouts sometimes and just sharing with people what I'm doing. So yeah, I mean, this kind of came out of nowhere. I think this whole like booty craze, it's a little wild to me. This whole, you know, desired look of having a very large, you know, large butt and thick thighs, because I'm naturally, kind of built like that. I'm kind of built like that. Like, I'm more on the curvier side, not crazy curvy, okay, but just like natural little Latina curves I got on me. And I used to like, I wouldn't go as far as saying bullied, but I definitely got harassed for it when I was in high school by other little fulanitos out there, you know, little boys over there. You know, to the point where I would sometimes wear my brother's baggy jeans and oversized tops and blouses that would cover my butt. And now that's like the whole aesthetic. Like, everybody's trying to show their butt and showcase, you know, their figure and their curves, which I'm all about, but it's pretty comical to me because now that's the whole aesthetic. But back then, when I was in high school, literally like guys would harass me and like comment and say things like, you have such a big butt. And like, that would really get to me. And I was really self-conscious. Even when I was like a cheerleader, I didn't want my skirt to be too tight because I didn't want it to like make me look really curvy or like, and it's crazy too, because like back then in high school, I was actually really skinny. But at the time, compared to other very petite, slim girls on my cheer team, I felt like I was big. But it's I feel like everybody goes through that though. Like, you look at old pictures of yourself and you're just like, oh my, like at that time you were thinking like, I'm so big, I'm so this, I'm so that, speaking super negatively about your body. And then years go on and you look back at those same photos during that same time period when you thought you were fat and you're really like, girl, you was looking good. Your stomach wasn't flat. And that's how I felt, during my time in high school. So it's just kind of crazy to me how body types are a trend, unfortunately. So just like fashion, body types go in and out of style. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the next decade or so, having a large butt goes out of style and, you know, super lean model-like figures come back in style. Because when I was in high school, that's kind of the desired ideal body type, was like very slim figures, not curves. So that's pretty unfortunate for us ladies, and that's really unfair because men don't have to go through this struggle, okay? So I know I kind of went on a little rant there, but let's actually dive into what I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to be talking about a lot of things today, all about glutes, glute training. I'm going to share with you guys why training your glutes is so important. I'm going to tell you training for glute growth. So there's not everybody who trains their glutes is specifically to grow them. Everyone needs to train their glutes for health reasons, again, for proper balance throughout your kinetic chain, throughout your body. I will be talking about training for hypertrophy specifically for today's episode. I won't be focusing on training for endurance or none of that, specifically for glute growth, because that is the biggest question I get as a personal trainer. The biggest request I get from clients is how to grow my butt. And I'll also share with you guys what can hinder your glute growth, which there are many, many factors that can hinder your growth. And at the very end of today's episode, I'll be sharing with you guys my top 5 favorite glute exercises. So there's a lot I'll be covering today. So make sure you're taking notes throughout the episode. And let's first start with, what are the primary muscle groups in your glutes? There's actually a lot of muscles within your glutes, but they're made up of primarily of 3 muscles: your gluteus maximus, your gluteus medius, your gluteus minimus. And the maximus is, it's in the name, is the largest muscle in the booty. Then it goes the medius, which extends to the side of the booty, commonly known as, air quote, side booty. And then the minimus, which is located just under the gluteus medius, and that's also kind of to the side. So again, gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, gluteus minimus, and there are different glute exercises that specifically target each muscle group differently. And I'm going to share with you guys all about that after this break.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast, dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Hey guys, and welcome back to GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. Let's get straight to it. Why is training your glutes important? Aside from the aesthetic appeal, which of course we all strive for, why is glute training so important? Why is it becoming vastly popular more and more each day? Why are more women and men, yes, men can train glutes, you guys. Why are both women and men incorporating more glute exercises in their workout regimen? And I'm going to list a few reasons as to why. First one, which is probably the most important one for me, honestly, is correct posture. As a consequence of the sitting disease, I like to call it, which it's in the name, you're sitting a lot, especially if you work at an office, at a desk, or you're an Uber, Lyft, bus driver. Many of us suffer from poor posture because, again, this is largely due to our jobs. Sitting a lot, this can cause tightness in the hip flexors, weaker glutes from sitting, and overstretched hip extensors. So that's why it's really important to kind of reverse that. You're going to want to help strengthen your glutes. Another reason why it's so important to train your glutes is for strong hip extension, which is in conjunction to what I just said about correct posture. Strong glutes also helps with improved hip mobility. In addition, proper knee tracking, aka reduced knee pain. Nobody wants knee pain. Think about it. Your glutes, you guys, your entire posterior kinetic chain consists of your glutes, your hamstrings, your calves, all the way down to your Achilles. So if you have weak glutes, it's going to negatively affect your hamstrings, your calves, your Achilles. All of that's all connected. Strong glutes also reduces back stress, which is Another really common body discomfort that I get a lot as a trainer from clients is that their lower back hurts. And a lot of times it could also be because they have a weak core, but it's also because of weak glutes. And last but not least, increased power and athletic performance. Strong glutes can help increase power and athletic performance. So if you're an athlete listening to this, you're going to want to start training your glutes. The gluteus maximus is capable of generating an enormous amount of power that people probably don't know. I mean, they are the largest and strongest muscles in our bodies for a reason. And this power can be translated into sports-specific speed, acceleration, vertical distance, endurance. So training the hips to extend powerfully and then propel the body forwards is key to improving your ability to run or jump and cycle faster and harder and longer. So really, it doesn't matter if you're playing basketball, football, whatever sport you are engaged in, training glutes needs to be an essential part in your workout routine. And I mean, just think about it. Pretty much our glutes are our hip stabilizers. And if they're weak or inactive, it can result in poor alignment of the entire lower body, as I just mentioned, all the way down to your Achilles. So just really think about your body as a whole. Like, I know some people don't want to grow bigger glutes, and that's fine. Like, you don't need to do, like, right now what I'm going to mention, I'm going to now start talking about how to train your glutes for growth, for maximum growth. But everybody needs to train their glutes at least one time a week. If you want to grow them, that's a whole different story. Just train them once a week just to kind of keep overall balance within your entire kinetic chain. Now, let's get into training for hypertrophy, aka muscle growth. So again, I'm going to really drill into this concept, and it's going to probably spill into the next segment as well, because I have a lot to say about this. Again, this is really where my expertise as a trainer is going to kick in, how my glute growth has improved. Also a lot of concepts from Brett Contreras's, his work with the glute lab, and you know, he's known as the glute guy for a reason. There are many acute variables that are the fundamental components of designing a training program. So for today's episode, we're going to be focusing on, again, like I said, hypertrophy training style for glutes. And some of these acute variables include your reps, your sets, your training frequency, volume, and more. So all of these things are going to somehow affect maximum glute growth or minimal glute growth. So heavier weights alone will not build bigger muscles. I know most people think like, okay, I got to lift heavy. Lifting heavy is equating, it equates to bigger muscles. And it could be for a little bit, but not for maximum growth. And we also have to make sure to consider the three primary mechanisms of training for muscle growth, which are tension, metabolic stress, and damage. These are the three most important things you got to focus on if you want to train for maximum glute growth. Let's first talk about mechanical tension. So sometimes you might feel like a muscle is about to rip off a bone when you're lifting heavy weights. I've been there, especially with hip thrusts. This, you guys, is mechanical tension. When you lift weights through a full range of motion, the muscles are placed under a combination of passive and active tension. So passive tension is when the muscle is stretched. So usually, like, let's use hip thrust for the example here. So passive tension in a hip thrust would be when your hips are stretched at the very bottom, and then the active tension is activated when you're at the very top squeezing your glutes and you're working with that entire full range of motion. So passive at the bottom, active tension at the top. And tension is carried through a full range of motion, and that's what's going to help build maximum muscle. But not just mechanical tension do you need. You also need metabolic stress. So think about the feeling you get when you know you're really targeting in a muscle, like say in a cable abduction. You're kicking back and you're really feeling that burn in your glutes. that burning sensation you elicit and that pump that you achieve, that's that metabolic stress that you're striving for. And that's, how I just said, that's the metabolic stress that you're striving for. So mechanical tension, metabolic stress, and then muscular damage. This is super important. So you know that feeling when you wake up the next morning after an intense workout and it's a struggle to even get out of bed because you're that sore, or you can't even go to the bathroom and sit on the toilet because you're literally that sore. I've been there. I know many of you have as well. This soreness is somewhat indicative of muscular damage. Approximately 2 days following a very intense or strenuous workout, that's usually when your soreness reaches its peak, its second day. I know usually for me, I worked out in the morning one day. I will start to feel a little bit of like tenderness throughout my body that same day I work out. And then the following day, that's when it really hits me like, oh my goodness, like I cannot even move. So that's for most people, approximately 2 days for peak soreness. But something really important I want to mention. Being sore doesn't always equate to you having a good workout. Like, it's possible for you to have an amazing workout and not be sore. You don't always need to be sore for it to mean like I had a good workout. Like, I know there are days when I know I smashed it in the gym, but like I don't feel sore, and that's okay. So if you're working out, don't strive for soreness. Strive for progressive overload. Strive for perfect form. Strive for maximum effort. Those are the things you should be focusing on in a workout, not working out to be sore. You feel me? And muscular damage, still I want to talk about this a little more deeply, just because muscle soreness is something we all experience when working out. Muscular damage is created by either doing something that is unfamiliar, so like a new exercise. Therefore, a variety in your workout regimen is an important component to muscle damage, as it ensures the targeting of different subdivisions and motor units of muscles. So it is important to add variety to your workout to constantly stimulate your type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers and just constantly shocking your muscles. But you don't want to shock them too often. Like, you don't want to go into the gym every day with a different routine. There needs to be somewhat of a consistency within your workout, but also maybe you can throw in like 1 or 2 exercises that are new. But generally speaking, you want to stick to a lot of consistency with some shock in it. That's what works for me. That's what how I've seen maximum glute growth. Could be different for somebody else, but that's just kind of what I like to first explain to my clients is you don't need to always shock your muscles. That's the whole point of progressive overload, which I'm going to get into right now, because hypertrophy requires progressive overload. And if you guys are going to take note about anything on today's episode, this is what you need to understand for glute growth. If you're trying to grow your booty, you need to understand this concept of progressive overload. This is the most important law of strength training, okay? Without it, you will see very little progress and not gain your most optimal training results. So let's say perhaps you're new to lifting and you're wondering exactly what progressive overload is. Progressive overload, you guys, simply means that you're doing more over time. This could possibly mean you're adding more weight to the bar, or you're doing more reps. So instead of you sumo deadlifting 4 reps for 6, you aim to do 4 sets for 8 reps. You start doing 4 sets of 12 or 10. Little by little. It doesn't have to be anything extreme. Literally, even just upping it by 1 rep will make a difference. Or even like having shorter rest periods in between sets can also create progressive overload. So it doesn't necessarily always need to be adding more weight each week. But I do highly suggest for maximum growth, week by week, slowly and surely start progressive overloading your workouts. So If you are, let's say, okay, I'm going to do like beginner style. You start off doing a goblet squat with a dumbbell. Progress to doing the barbell. Then on the barbell, add weight. And then on the barbell, you do that same weight, perfect form. That's the key. With progressive overload, you need to have perfect form. So you're doing a squat with the barbell, a back squat. Let's say you're doing 100 pounds back squatting. Do 3 sets of 12, then 15, and then add an extra set in there. So there's like a whole bunch of different ways. I don't want to confuse you too much, but there's just so many different ways to progressively overload your workouts for the most optimal training results. And now there's going to get real dense here, so keep up with me. Let's talk about your type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers, your slow twitch and your fast twitch. This is really important also to understand because for glute growth, you need to make sure you're targeting both your slow twitch fibers, which are your type 1, and your fast twitch fibers, which are your type 2 fibers. So your type 1 or slow twitch fibers, they are characterized as being smaller in diameter, slower to produce maximal tension, and more resistant to fatigue. So these fibers are important for muscles that need to produce long-term contractions necessary for stabilization, endurance, and postural control. So this could be, say like higher reps. And then type 2 or fast twitch fibers, these are characterized as being larger in size. They're quick to produce maximal tension and fatigue more quickly than type 1 fibers. And these fast twitch fibers are important to produce movements requiring force and power, such as performing a sprint. So again, athletes, you're going to want to make sure you're definitely engaging, activating your type 2 fast twitch fibers, but you also want to make sure you mix in exercises that target your slow twitch fibers. So again, you want to make sure you just implement exercises in your routine that stimulate both slow and fast twitch fibers for maximal glute growth. So this is a mix of high reps, shorter rest periods, low weight, heavy weight. So that's why I'm going back to what I said earlier, that heavier weight doesn't always mean the biggest muscle growth. You need a mixture of high rep, low weight, heavy weight, low rep. It's a mixture of it all because you need to target both your slow twitch and your fast twitch muscle fibers. And I'm going to go on another quick break. Don't lose me, y'all. And when we come back, we'll talk more on maximum glute growth.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hello and welcome back to GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. Moving on, more on glute hypertrophy, aka muscle growth. Training intensity, that's another acute variable that's very important when aiming to grow your booty. So training intensity is defined as the individual's level of effort compared with their maximal effort. So this is usually expressed as a percentage. So for instance, for hypertrophy, muscular hypertrophy, usually requires 75 to 85% IRM. So that means like your maximum effort, not maximum effort, sorry, but it's pretty up there for like power adaptations, power exercises. It's going to be like in the 90s, even to 100. So 75 to 85% effort. Just think. Training volume. Training volume is the total amount of work performed within a specified time, and volume is inversely related to training intensity. So usually higher volume training produces cellular adaptations like hypertrophy and fat loss. So when training for glute growth, you want to make sure that there's enough volume in your workouts. So this means you're not just doing 3 exercises of glutes. Let me word this better. You're not doing like low volume exercise routine would be like you working out your glutes twice a week, 3 exercises with not that much effort. That's not going to work. You need to make sure there's volume work in there. So you're doing like 5 exercises to target your glutes with high 75 to 85% effort and 2 to 3 times a week. The volume is what's going to really set it apart, the volume and intensity. And in addition is also training frequency. So usually like a lot of bodybuilders who want to bring up or grow a lagging part of their body, which is whether it's their bicep, their chest, their butt, training frequency is another key component. So again, just making sure that you're frequently training that specific body part. So for glutes, I would recommend training them 3, maybe even 5 times a week. I would say 5 times if you are a regular gym goer, you kind of know what you're doing and you've been in the game for a minute. But if you're a beginner, you're just starting out, I actually would suggest first do 2 full body days and then slowly begin to increase your training frequency in that way, and then start to do like a split routine. And a split routine is when you designate specific days to target specific muscle groups. So a lot of people will do Mondays, we do legs, Tuesday, chest and tris, Wednesday, back and bis, and then Thursday do glutes, and then Friday a rest day, and then Saturday we do legs again. So just making sure that you kind of plan out your workouts, listen to your body. If you are training glutes 3 times a week and you are just way too sore, like you train them on Monday and you train them again on Wednesday, and then by Saturday you're still sore, but you're going to train them again, you're actually hindering your results by doing that. And I'm going to get more into recovery in a later segment, but just making sure that your training frequency is appropriate for, I guess, the level, the experience that you have at the moment. Overtraining will kill your glute growth. Next, the superset system. This is another great way to promote glute growth. I incorporate many supersets in my workout routine. And this is pretty much when you perform 2 exercises in rapid succession, one after the other. So there are 2 variations to supersetting. The first one is performing 2 exercises for the same muscle group back to back. So for example, you'll do American deadlifts. So those are going to target, hamstring and glutes. And then immediately after you're doing your sets for American deadlifts, you immediately do a stability ball hamstring curl, because that's also targeting your hamstrings and glutes. So you're targeting the same muscle group in this variation. The second variation to supersetting consists of performing 2 exercises back to back that involve antagonist muscle groups, so opposites, think. So for instance, you could be doing quad extensions and then immediately doing dumbbell RDLs, so Romanian deadlifts with dumbbells. That's going to target your hamstrings. So those are opposing antagonist muscle groups there. So there are a couple different ways you can do the superset system. I kind of switch it up. I sometimes do the same muscle group back to back. I sometimes do the antagonist groups. It just kind of depends on my mood. Another common question I get for glute training also is, what kind of cardio should you be doing? What kind of cardio should I be doing? This is what I have to say. every coach, trainer might say something a little bit differently, but this is how I've seen the best results. If your primary goal is glute hypertrophy, I personally would just completely stay away from any cardio when you're trying to grow your glutes. A lot of times people actually see their glutes get smaller from doing cardio, especially if you're running on a treadmill, you're running on a flat surface. You can't really like spot treat fat loss. So when you're running on a treadmill and you're like shedding fat, you're shedding it all over. So that's including your butt. So if you absolutely must do cardio or you just like absolutely love to do it, can't give it up, I would suggest doing the Stairmaster or do a treadmill at an incline. Don't do the treadmill on flat surface. Do it at an incline, because if you're moving up, you are still engaging your glutes in that manner. And same thing for the Stairmaster. You're moving in an upward fashion. So you're constantly keeping tension in the glutes and not losing it. This is a common mistake that people do, is that they incorporate too much cardio when they're trying to grow their glutes, and you will lose the booty gains by doing so. So fair warning. Another common question I get a lot in regards to training, growing glutes is, how do I grow my hips? So you've probably seen this tagline from your favorite fitness influencer posting a video titled "Booty Exercise that Target the Side Booty." Newsflash, people, you physically and biologically cannot grow your hips. Your hips are made of bone. You can, though, create the illusion of wider hips by implementing exercises like the seated abduction to target your gluteus medius and minimus, but you physically cannot grow your hips. This is something I think it's misworded a lot because of social media. A lot of these influencers are, going on the gram saying like, how I grew my hips. Well, you didn't really grow your hips, because physically no one can grow their hips. It's bone, we can't change that structure, but you can create the illusion of a wider hourglass figure. So those are the main key points I'd have to say for training for hypertrophy. I know that was a lot, so I'm going to go through them again. So I would say just take into consideration all of these acute variables, your reps, your sets, your training frequency, your volume, making sure you keep muscle tension, you create metabolic stress, muscular damage. You're actually working the correct muscle group as you're going through the workout. Progressive overload. This is something I do not want you guys to, skip over in today's podcast. Progressive overload is the most important thing I would need you guys to take away if you're really serious about those glute gains. Progressive overload, okay? Just constantly overloading, doing more over time, whether that's adding more weight on the bar or creating shorter resting periods, and making sure that you also engage your slow twitch and fast twitch fibers, aka a mix of high rep and low rep, heavyweight and lightweight. All of these things, the superset system, everything. Go back, rewind this podcast if you need to take notes, because I know I went through a lot, but these are some of the key factors I wanted to highlight in today's episode. There's so many more, but literally if I would like to sit here and really get into nitty gritty detail about glute growth, I can be here for another hour. Seriously, I have so much to say about this. I love training glutes and I love researching and just finding new, research pretty much on glute growth. But I just wanted to mention what has worked for me, what has worked for my clients, and what I see positively affecting my body. So training volume, all of those things. Again, just rewind if you need a little refresher, or if you need to go back and just take more notes on everything I said, because it was a lot. I know we got to take a step back right now because my mouth is getting sore. My tongue is getting dry from all this talking that I'm doing. But I'm going to cut into another very brief, very quick break. When I come back, I'm going to share with you guys what can hinder your glute growth. And I'll finally share with you guys my top 5 favorite glute exercises.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Hey guys, and welcome back to GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. And let's dive right straight to it. That made no sense, but let's get to it. So what can hinder your glute growth? There are many factors as well. I just provided you guys with so much information in the first couple of segments on how to exactly gain those gains. But what can actually hinder those gains? That's the real tea here, okay? You're doing all the booty exercises and workouts, but not seeing the results. I know how frustrating this could be. There could be a variety of factors as to what exactly is hindering your glute growth. And I believe that the most important factor with regards to gluteal hypertrophic response is genetics. Yes, I said it. This doesn't mean you blame everything on genetics. You can't blame your genetics for not losing weight or for whatever the case may be. Like, you can't blame your genetics for anything. Each human varies dramatically in their ability to gain muscle. However, this is not an excuse for anyone to blame their genetics for poor glute growth or anything. So sure, your genetics play a huge role and can make it more challenging to reach your goal, but that does not mean that it's impossible. So that just means that your journey, the way your progress is going to be different from the person next to you. So it's really important to not compare your progress with anybody else. I mean, it may take you a whole year to drop 20 pounds or to grow like 2 inches around the booty, as opposed to your neighbor who can do all that in 4 months. So it's just making sure that you just stay focused on what you're doing, on your workouts, on your progress. Do not compare to the girls on Instagram, because you don't know everything they had to do or how long they've been training. You can't compare your day 1 to someone else's day 100. I read that somewhere and I just absolutely loved it, and it stuck with me, and I apply that to everything in my life, because I'm gonna be honest here, I tend to do that too. I compare all the time, where I'm at in my life to other people, and I can't do that because that's extremely detrimental to my mental health. So just do not compare yourself to anybody. I know that sounds so cliche and everybody says it, but it's true. After genetics, there are still many factors as to why you may not be seeing the results that you like. So some things you need to consider and ask yourself is, are you adhering to the best program? So just because your favorite fitness influencer is following the specific program, it may not work for you. Everybody's anatomy is different. Everybody's body functions differently. So maybe the glute exercises that I am going to share with you guys at the very end of this episode may not even work for you. Some exercises don't promote the same glute activation as other people. I know some people who swear that walking lunges, their glute is burning. But for me, I just feel my hamstrings. So everybody's a little bit differently. So you just have to make sure, are you adhering to the best program? Are you using proper form? Are you training with sufficient maximum effort? Are you gaining strength over time? Progressive overload, that's key. Are you getting enough recovery between sessions? This is another super important one, because if you don't give your muscles enough time to recover, then maximum glute growth will not happen. Going back to that example that I said earlier, if you are training glutes 3 times a week, you train them on Monday, you train them on Wednesday, and you train them again on Friday, but by Friday, you're still super sore from the 2 previous sessions you had, but you're still there training glutes. That's pretty much a loss. Like it's not serving you. It's not doing you any good because your muscles are still damaged and you need to make sure that you're properly repairing your muscles. And how do you repair your muscles? How do you properly recover your muscles from damage? By eating properly, by having a well-balanced diet, by making sure you're eating in a calorie surplus diet. Super key if you want to grow the butt. I said that's so weird. I didn't know if I want to say butt or booty, so I was like butt. So yeah, making sure if you're trying to grow any muscle group, you have to eat in a caloric surplus. So you're eating more than what you're burning. Also, sleep is something you need to consider. Are you getting enough sleep? Because sleep directly affects your muscle growth. I mean, think about it. Sleep is the only time of the day when you're letting your body rest, letting your mind rest. And if you're not even giving your body that time to like shut down, then when is it going to have time to recover? In addition, also just making sure you drink enough water. You need water for just like anything. So just make sure you drink enough agua. And if all of those things you're doing, you're eating the right amount, the right amount of calories, your macros are on point, you're getting your rest, 7 to 8 hours of sleep ideally, you are drinking enough water, you are training with maximum effort, you are adhering to the right program for you, and you're still not seeing the results that you are hoping to see, I always tell people 2 things. 1, you're either not being consistent, or 2, you're not being patient. When it comes to working out and results, you can't rush them. So consistency and patience are going to be your 2 best virtues here, okay? Consistency and patience. Now, let's finally get to me sharing my top 5 favorite glute exercises. These exercises are not listed in any particular order. I got mad love for all of them, and they all burn my booty like crazy. That's why they're my favorite. So let's start off with, of course, a hip thrust, a barbell hip thrust, or a dumbbell hip thrust. Hip thrust for me, I have very high level of glute activation for hip thrust. Some people might say like, I feel it more in my hamstrings, or I feel it more in my quads. However, for me, I definitely feel it. Hip thrust, to me, I immediately feel my glutes burning like crazy. So that's why it's my favorite. Cable squat, superset with the cable deadlift. So remember what I said earlier about supersetting? I do these 2 exercises back to back. So I'll do a cable squat and immediately go into a cable deadlift. And mind you, I have like a mini band above my knee to create more tension in my glutes, and I will literally like almost cry. Like after I do my sets for this particular exercise, I swear I can't walk. Like my butt is burning. So cable squat with superset with a cable deadlift, highly recommend. Another favorite of mine is a deficit back lunge. A deficit back lunge is something you just are creating more full range of motion. So to me, I like to do a back lunge either on a bench, or I'll even put a plate, like a 45-pound plate underneath my foot, and I'll step back and create the lunge like that. And remember how I said about passive tension? That's when your muscles being stretched to the max. That's essentially what a deficit exercise is doing. So in the deficit back lunge, I'm stepping back and I'm creating the most passive tension in my glute by stretching it at the very bottom. And then I'm creating the maximum tension also by coming all the way to the top and squeezing my glute to get back up. So deficit back lunge, another favorite. Seated abduction machine. Of course, this is perfect for targeting your gluteus medius, your gluteus minimus, your side booty. So the seated abduction machine is perfect for that. And last but not least, we have the cable abduction with a curtsy lunge. So that's also kind of like a superset. So I kind of got a mix of everything here. I got the barbell hip thrust / dumbbell hip thrust, cable squat, superset with cable deadlift, a deficit back lunge, seated abduction machine, cable abduction with curtsy lunge. All of those are my top 5 favorite exercises. And I love these because they add variety. If you notice, all of these incorporate either a hinge, an extension, an external rotation, abduction. So that's what you were trying, that if you're, again, to target your glutes properly and effectively, you want to make sure you target them in every angle and every way you can with high reps and low reps, heavyweight and lightweight. So all of these exercises, these are like my key ones, but I add different components. So sometimes I'll add a band. Sometimes I'll do it with dumbbells, a mini barbell. So it just kind of, I guess it just depends how I feel, but that's going to wrap up today, all about glutes, specifically glute growth. There is so much more information I wanted to add in today's podcast regarding like booty building and just glute training in general, because I'm like, this is my favorite body part to train. I feel like not like an expert like Brett Contreras status, but I feel like I know enough knowledge to help somebody build that specific area. And you guys, I hope you liked today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you liked what I had to say today, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, share it with your auntie, your sister, your uncle, your friend, your bestie, your frenemy, your teacher, whoever. Share this podcast episode to anybody who wants to learn more about glute training, for anyone who wants to learn more about glute hypertrophy, any of that. And I hope you guys also liked my favorite exercise that I included at the end of the podcast. And let me know in the comments if you incorporate these exercises in your routine as well. And I wish you all a happy and healthy week.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.